Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and welcome back to my channel.
Who is that they, them on my screen?
Y'all, I'm so sorry to keep giving you these crusty, dusty re-uploads from my Twitch channel here in the main channel. Today, we had a lot of really good conversations on my Twitch stream regarding the video that I posted regarding Nikki T and Cam, and some people were able to ask some questions and follow-ups and things like that, and I'm sure I didn't address everything because like I said in this live stream many times, I honestly feel overwhelmed by a lot. There's just so many different things that I've read in my comment section that I feel overwhelmed of being able to address it all, to be quite honest with you, but perhaps some of this can be a start. I also want to say that I'm editing out anything that doesn't feel relevant to the conversation, but either way, I don't want to continue like going back and forth and talking about all of this forever and ever and ever and ever, and it felt like a really productive conversation that we had in my chat regarding the stuff from the video. And so, I don't know, yeah, I hope that you'll consider listening to everything, because if there's one thing I feel like, it's that I feel like folks weren't really necessarily listening to the things I said, and so hopefully this will help clarify things, give you a different perspective. And if you ultimately just like disagree with me about some stuff, that's okay too. I'm really not pressed. But when people do use language like, I'm disappointed in you, Zach, I'm upset, like, I do care about those things. Granted, like, I'm very aware I can't make everybody happy. But all of this, the whole entire video to begin with, came from people being concerned. And not just the comments I showed, but people in my Twitch chat as well. And so I am always willing to listen. That doesn't mean I'll agree with everything. That doesn't necessarily mean I'll agree with everything, but I'll always listen. So anyways, here's this. I was also having a lot of issues with like my stream glitching. I refer to it as glitching here in the video, so my apologies for that as well if it like disrupts thoughts and things like that, or like things get jumbled. And because of that, I actually didn't formally end the live stream either, because it just stopped. I just stopped streaming, and I'd been streaming for almost 2 hours, so I just called it a day. But anyways, I hope that all makes sense. Feel free to keep watching, and I'll probably be back at the end of this video too. How's it going, everybody? I hope y'all are well. I know a lot of y'all probably been waiting for the the dishwasher update. Yeah, no, that's what everybody wants to talk about today. I imagine everybody's just like, ooh, can we please talk about your dishwasher? Let's talk about it video, but it's just the dishwasher. Could you imagine how heated people would be? Also, I think
so sorry I'm late with my alert. The Zach 11 Pride, the Zach 11 Palestine, the Zach 11 Blush.
Becca, thanks so much for 29 months. Could you imagine if I did people would be heated if I was like, let's talk about it, and then it's just 15 minutes of me talking about my dishwasher saga. I don't know that I'm in a place right now where I'm trying to stoke any flames. Some people would, I think, be even more upset. People would hate that you should do it. I disagree. Here, let me check in with you first about this. How many people here have already tuned into the video that I posted last night about Nikki T and Cam? I'm just asking that to get a sense of like talking about it and discussing the discourse and things like that, because I want to make sure that there's like some level of like understanding of at least what I'm talking about. And the weirdly lady reacting to it this morning. I know in the Discord lots of people were watching, I think, Elizabeth Richardson or Libby, the reaction channel that Amber Lynn used to be obsessed with. I have not watched her her reaction about it, outside of like seeing y'all's discourse about it. Well, I will say at one point today I did sit down and I sat in front of my camera and I just filmed like my stream of consciousness, thoughts and feelings and things like that. One, I didn't give myself enough time to like watch it back. I didn't give myself enough time to edit it, upload it, etc. And so I think in the long scheme of things, I'm not gonna upload it at all. But I will say it was helpful, at least in like starting to like organize some of my thoughts, and it was like cathartic to get it out. I think there's a lot of things about, and honestly, I'm also saying some of this today because like I might just take the stream today to talk with y'all about my thoughts about it, and that might be what we do today, to be honest with you, because I've spent a lot of my day ruminating about it, which is not a good thing for me to be doing. Rumination in general usually is a sign of me being anxious and stuff like that, so it's not like not great. I guess here's the thing that I find most difficult about the situation. I think you all know that I am like generally somebody that is receptive to feedback, or I'd like to think that. And I also care if like people are genuinely upset or hurt or like disappointed. A lot of people like phrase their feedback and their criticism of my video by saying things like they were upset and that they were disappointed and things like that, and I think that's fine. That's probably valid to how they're feeling, but also that's like really difficult for me because I think I've already talked to you all a lot about how like it's already difficult for me, and I think a lot of creators, to be honest, to like differentiate between like what valid feedback is and what like well-intentioned feedback is and things like that. And I certainly think there's some. And also like overall what is really difficult about it for me is that overall I don't, outside of a few things that I probably would do different based on some feedback specifically from people here and in the Discord, outside of like a few small things, like my overall points I still stand by. All of my concerns are valid. I think that I was being super reasonable in my approach to the video. I think some people have allowed for it to be something that like I never intended it to be. It feels like a lot of people think that like I'm trying to destroy Nikki, that I'm trying to ruin Nikki for Rosie, that I'm trying to do all kinds of things. The reality is that some of the stuff that Nikki has been involved in during her time on the internet and covering Rosie has been weird. The other thing that I find to be so difficult about it is that I just feel inundated with like so many different thoughts, feelings, and opinions about the situation. It's like one of those things where I don't know where to start or what to address, if anything. Like what's the most important. I will say I can start with the things that I feel like were valid pieces of feedback from people in this community that like I would change or would do differently. One is the blurring of the stuff that like I got a privacy claim on. So I already have actually gone back. I don't know if YouTube's finished processing it, but like if you eventually, whenever YouTube finishes processing it, if it hasn't already, there's a blur over the things that Nikki shared on Twitter. And then the other thing, I think Colin was the one that said it, was like the part I included about Cam talking about how he like falls asleep to Nikki. I genuinely feel like he's suggesting like, hey, outside of this, like outside of just like listening to her on stream, like I fall asleep in voice chats with her is like the vibe I was getting from it. But I do agree that it's like, it's not like a smoking gun or anything. It's not like this is so damning. I think the other clips I included of Cam talking about like being with Nikki or talking about similar things to Nikki or taking like ownership of like finding the Reddit account that Nikki went on to talk about in her, like I think that those all are relevant. So, like, I don't know. So anyways, all that to say, otherwise, I feel like the things I included were all relevant. He's made other suggestions that they still talk. He just deletes VODs. Oh, I'm sure. And honestly, that's how I feel about about Nikki too. I mean, I don't have any proof of that because I don't keep up with Nikki like that. I was making a point to say that Nikki has said time and time and time and time and time again that she shouldn't have to address it because she's already addressed it. But I simply cannot find anywhere where she's addressed it. So that's why I'm like, if she has, please point me to it outside of the community tab post, because that really didn't say that I'm not going to talk to him ever again. It said that she just wasn't going to like platform him on her channel. One of a couple things that like really also stand out to me that I really struggle with in terms of some of the feedback is that like people are suggesting that I didn't do any research, and I think that that's, well, one, that's a talking point from Cam, just so you know. Like, Cam regularly tweets that I'm lazy and that I don't do my own research. That's like 100% of Cam. Not to say that like they're taking it from Cam, I'm just saying that's like arguments that he makes about me on the regular. He says I don't do my own research, I steal from Twitter, and I steal from Charlie Gold. Those are all things that he's said about me in the past. Should I just... I do remember what I was talking about when the Glanch started. I do remember, because I was talking about the concept of research. So what had I said? Oh, I said that Zach doesn't do their own research thing is a talking point of Cam. It's also been a talking point because people have felt like, you know, like Jane does these edits for me so that I can do a genuine first-time reaction to them because I am what? A reaction channel. And so people are like, Zach doesn't do their own research. The reality is I've never claimed to be a deep dive journalist. I had a brief moment about a year ago where I was doing some more video essay adjacent content. I think some people even took issue with me calling them video essays. But for all intents and purposes, in the like 9-10 years, however long it's been that I've been doing topics related to Amberlynn, Chantal, Rosie, etc., I've always primarily done reactions. Like, a majority of my content is just me pulling up a video and reacting to it. There's not necessarily a lot of research to be done there. When I do reference somebody else's video or clips that I got from somewhere, I credit and or cite those things, because actually I spent a lot of time writing papers and research papers and shit like that.
My cream all wheat.
You know? And when you do things like that, you cite your sources. Not every single thing you have is an original thought, and because it's not an original thought, you cite your sources. All this to say, I'm a person on YouTube who reacts to shit and gives my opinion.
Love.
If you're concerned that I'm not doing research to do that, we're simply gonna be at an impasse, because I don't think that those things are research. But your channel's too big to do that, I heard. It's too big to have somebody help me with clips so that I don't have to get spoiled about what happens in a 5-hour long live stream. I think part of the problem, and I don't like to like argue with people about semantics when it comes to the phrase reaction channels, but I think people have like forgotten what the word reaction means, because reaction channels tends to be a catch-all term for anybody who makes content about Amberlynn, Chantal, or Rosie. And the reality is that a lot of those channels are not truly reaction channels. A lot of those people are just simply providing commentary, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's like a lot of those people are watching the clips beforehand, making their, like, forming their opinions and then putting it into a video. Whereas most of the time, most of my videos are me sitting down and watching something for the first time, i.e. why it started out with Jane voluntarily doing those things for me, and now I pay her. So, like, I just don't know what to do about about that. Really then, furthermore, when we're talking about research and stuff like that, what's so irritating about it is that people are claiming I didn't do any research in regards to this video that I put out. And the reality is I used up so much of my personal free time, which is fine. That's like how I chose to use it. I'm not complaining about that. But to say that I was using up my free time because I was interested in learning more about what these people in my comments were saying. And so I did read through a bunch of tweets that Nikki has made since December when Cam sent the email to Rosie. I watched multiple live streams of Nikki's. I watched multiple live streams of Cam's. If that's not me doing research about those things so I can form my own opinion about them, I don't know what research you want me to do. Like, I simply don't know what research you want me to do about that. Why do you need to do in-depth research to know Nikki's stance on Cam? Shouldn't that be easy to find? Well, and then that's also part of the problem. And I did share, like, I don't inherently just believe everything about Cam or that Cam has to say about Nikki, because Cam lies about me. In the same way that I don't believe a lot of the things that Rosie says because Rosie lies about me, I also don't believe most of the things that Cam says either. The research they want you to do is the one that gets you to the same conclusion that they have. Yeah. Well, and then that's like what's so confusing to me is that the research that I did led me to an opinion that people disagree with. And that's fine. I don't know how many times I said in the video yesterday, actually started it off prefacing, I imagine there's probably a lot of people who won't agree with my take. I was like, I feel like there's a lot of people who probably won't agree with my take, and that's fine. This is just people wanted my opinion on this. I'm giving my opinion on this based on me taking time to look into it further. That's my thoughts about the research thing. I don't know what people want from me in terms of that. I cite my sources when I use other people's clips. And I also want to be clear, I haven't actually gone and counted, so I'm sure somebody can fact check me on this. I don't think I've used clips from Nikki more than like 2 to 3 times. But even if I have, I just as often use clips from my own channels when I'm putting in points to show when Rosie's being contradictory or things like that. So, and Nikki's certainly also not the only channel besides myself that like I've utilized clips from. I use clips from Charlie a lot. I've used clips from Aren't You Exhausted, I think. And I also explained when using those clips, I frequently, unless it's like Charlie, who I do watch a lot and I have a sense of like maybe a stream, I remember her saying something or covering something, I usually use Filmot, which I've talked to you all about a lot. You know, the second you didn't credit someone, it would be a week-long thing. And, well, that's also the thing. I've talked about this recently because at the beginning of my channel, I used to just have people sending me clips and stuff, and I wouldn't say where I got it from, and then come to find out that like the person who sent it to me got it from places like Kiwi Farms or something like that. And then I'd have all these people in my comments saying, you stole this clip from Kiwi Farms. Diva, I don't fucking know where it came from. I got it in a DM to me. And so after that, I have like quite literally credited anytime I get anything from anywhere. Oh yeah, I've seen some discourse around like, I just want to be an archive channel. I just want to be an archive channel. If there's anything that Nikki is, it's that she's not exclusively an archive channel. I think I saw a screenshot of like her in somebody's chat, probably Libby's, making a comment, a statement that she's an archive channel, so she shouldn't have to share her personal life. Well, first of all, she reacts to Rosie frequently, and I can tell you that because I watched several of her streams. She has a lot of opinions. And on top of that, she sometimes shares her personal life as a talking point in regards to things that Rosie talks about. So to that extent, like, I don't think I can say this from firsthand experience, like, you don't get to pick and choose. I learned that very quickly when I decided to bring things about my breakup to the internet. All right, I learned very quickly, very, very hard. And so I don't think you get to say like, I like she for instance, just for example, and she's welcome to have boundaries around this. I want to be clear about this, but I'm using this by way of example to talk about how she has talked about her personal life. There were streams where people would start talking about sexual assaults and things like that, where she would bring up her own personal experiences. That's outside of the comments I shared in my video yesterday, where she was using that as a way to shut down the conversation she was having. And so, yeah, like, you do talk about your personal life. And also, that's your story, and you get to share that however you want, whenever you want. Like, I absolutely support you in doing that. And I know that is like a large part of what drives a lot of Nikki's frustration with Rosie. And so to that extent, it's just like you don't get to like all of a sudden just be like, my personal life is off limits about this one very specific thing. I don't know. At least that's my opinion. At least that's my opinion in the sense that, like, it's just like not entirely adding up adding up to me. I think it's like a convenient excuse. I guess maybe along those lines, I have seen that there are folks that were concerned that I was putting Nikki in danger by bringing up Cam. And let me just be clear, I don't know details about what is going on with her and Cam. I know that she does occasionally talk about Cam, just not when people ask her to clarify her relationship with him, but she's certainly talked about him in other contexts. She said not physical danger, to be clear for everyone. There you go. And again, I think I shared multiple times in my video that she doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to do anything, okay? If she doesn't want to clarify what her relationship with Cam is, that's fine. I just said, for me to be able to wholeheartedly say that I fuck with her in some kind of way, for me to not have issues with her, I would need to know, for me personally, as somebody who also feels endangered to some extent by Cam, why would I want to personally have anything to do with a person that is unwilling to say that they don't fuck with him? So that's for me and my family, okay? If nobody else feels like she needs to clarify that, if she doesn't feel like she needs to clarify that, that's fine. That is okay. Like, I just want to be so clear about that. I'm not putting a gun to anybody's head to make them do anything. I just want to be clear, okay? This isn't to belittle whatever fear Nikki has, okay? But what I will say is that I live in the same continent, the same country as Cam, and Cam has repeatedly claimed that he knows people that know me in Chicago, that he has information about me, and he has a history of going in real life with people. So yeah, I'm not gonna fuck with somebody who is related or can't, like, condemn that man, okay? Like, I'm just not. And again, she don't have to do anything. All you're saying is you would feel better about this creator if XYZ. She does not want to do XYZ, therefore you don't engage with her. Simple. Exactly. I just found out today that they were never dating. And see, I don't believe that either, Jamie. And whatever, but, like, literally the live stream, I do remember this. This is something that I know. This is something that I know because I watched the live stream that he did where he was taking ownership of sending the email to Rosie. And in that live stream, he was literally talking about trying to immigrate to Australia. I literally shared a clip where he referred to her as his partner, but that's maybe neither here nor there because he could be lying. I guess he could be lying about immigrating to Australia too, but Nikki was present in that live stream and never corrected it. Nikki was in the chat of that Twitch live stream where he was talking about those things. But either way, regardless, I don't think it's a crime for me to be like, I don't like this behavior. This is what as Colin said, I would like to see these things, otherwise I'm not engaging with this creator. I feel very overwhelmed because there's so many different things that like people took issues with, had problems with, were upset about. So much of it, like, obviously not being said by the same people, but sometimes people would say things that like contradicted what other people were saying. I think we've talked many times here that like I'm under no impression that I'm gonna please everybody, and like to that extent, like I don't feel it necessary to sit and like argue over things or like pick out every single little thing that somebody had a problem with. Let me see. I did, while I was walking to my appointment, or my workout, not appointment, I wrote some notes down. Oh, I guess in regards to research, when I was typing my notes, some other things that came up for me, because you know, I was thinking about like I did do research for this video, right? And then in addition to that, I wasn't even sharing anything as being fact. I presented all of it as like, this is my opinion. This is how I feel about it based on what I've watched. It's not a new feeling for me where I felt like people have like held me up on this pillar as like some kind of like beacon of right and wrong and stuff like that. You know, people talk a lot about like morals and things like that, and I have some more thoughts about like moral grandstanding and whatnot. But it's really challenging that people seem to think that like I am the arbiter of justice. I'm the person out here that like what I say everybody has to believe. It just simply isn't the case. And that's like very difficult for me.
Love my cream of wheat.
Didn't you hear you're the king of girl word?
Not by my choice. What was Woma saying? I feel like she made a good point. I feel really disheartened by it all. I thought there was more empathy in this space, and I was wrong. Not to defend
The
Rosie,
Zach 11 pride.
but the way they dehumanize her and what they believe she deserves is unnerving. Yeah, we can get that. That actually goes really well into like some of the thoughts I had about like moral grandstanding and things like that. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I also think like people undermine. It's tough because I think some people, I think there really are truly some people who seem to be struggling to engage in critical thinking, and at the same time I think there's people who are really like not giving themselves credit enough to be able to think critically, or at least like maybe not giving people in my audience credit enough for being able to think critically about some stuff. I saw some discourse that like, oh, nobody's allowed to like disagree with Zach, like none of Zach's supporters let people disagree with them, this, that, the other. First of all, that's just categorically untrue, and my comment section is filled with people who disagree with me currently. Just for the record. Just for the record. But second of all, even some of my most like consistent viewers who've watched me for a long time have provided feedback specifically about this, and nobody shut them down and told them that they weren't allowed to share that opinion. And even some of them, such as Colin, not to call Colin out, but Colin gave feedback that like I actually agreed with and I appreciated. People are allowed to disagree and do, and to that extent, it's people who disagreed, not just the comments I shared, but people in this Twitch stream who disagreed with me about my initial take about Nikki, which was that she's changed, that led to me investigating this to begin with. And so I think that those are also things that I really struggle with, because I don't know that I had like, I don't know what it is about the way I deliver things. I think about this a lot because I don't want to come across as like it's my way or the highway. So I don't know what it is that gives people this impression that everybody has to think or be like me, but it's just not the case for me. I'm also my own person, and it's been hard to hear people dismiss my thoughts and takes because I mod for you. I'm in their spaces regularly. I'm not just going in now to do your dirty work. There's probably something to also say about all the discourse with moderators. Actually, since I won't share that video, what I want to say about my moderator team is that I don't think a lot of people outside of our like specific Twitch community even understand that I've only had this moderator team in recent history. And it's because I went to TwitchCon and I just realized how much stuff I was doing on my own, and how I actually went to a panel specifically about like building community and how to utilize your moderator team to do that. And I was like, I'm not utilizing my moderator team at all. One thing I've been very intentional about in 2026 when it comes to like my business of YouTube is that I don't have to do everything on my own. I don't have to do it. And because of that, I really value what all of the moderators I've brought in have contributed. And also, I think that the perspective of people that don't know this community are under the assumption that like I'm somehow making people do stuff for me. And the reality is that a lot of the moderators were already highly involved in the community and doing things, and they're also highly involved in other content creators communities as well. At this point, I think Jamie specifically is pretty well known across the board when it comes to her involvement in other streamers' channels and things like that. And I really am upset that Wauma's getting flack for pushing back, because that's just what Wauma does. And if y'all don't think Wauma's never pushed back in here, she absolutely has. Like, it's one of the things that really makes me value Wauma as a viewer and as a moderator, because I know that Wauma's not somebody that's just gonna tell me what I want to hear. And to be real honest, and this isn't me like throwing Wauma under the bus, because again, all of this is my responsibility to like know and things, but one of the reasons that I continuously accepted that Nikki had changed was because Wauma is actually, like, Wauma, anytime I've ever brought up skepticism about Nikki T, Wauma is, like, one of the first people to be like, she really has changed, she's really been working to change, she's really made a difference. And Wauma is somebody whose opinion and perspective I really appreciate, and I look for her feedback. That's not to say that I shouldn't have like gone and verified that myself. And Wauma, much like me, I think has gotten additional information and has changed her thoughts, or like maybe pushed back as such because of that. So anyways, I just want to say that like no mod is like purposely doing things for me, running hit jobs for me, things like that. No, like it's just not. I think maybe some people think that way because it's happened in other communities in girl world, but it's just like simply not simply not the case, to be honest with you. I don't exist in an echo chamber. People are frequently happy to tell me that they disagree with me. I encouraged people to disagree with me. People clearly are disagreeing with me, and that's all fine. I do think it's clear that people have different boundaries for what they feel like crosses the line in terms of going in real life than what I do. And if that's the case, like, that's fine. We're at an impasse. I'm probably not going to agree with you, you know? But I do want to get to the moral grandstanding of it all, because you know, this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time that people have been like, Zach is sitting over here on their moral high ground, yada, yada, yada. And I started thinking about it a lot, about it in the same way that I thought about the conversation we had around politics. And when people got upset that I bring up politics and things in the conversations we have, you know, I made the point that like a lot of girl world is political. Like, people don't want to look at that, right? People don't want to discuss that, but a lot of things are related to politics. When it comes to all of the girlies, we can even just talk about access to healthcare and how that impacts them, and how that's determined by politicians. And we talked about ICE and deportations and things like that because Rosie brought it up, but also how are you going to sit over here and like talk about immigration and things like that and not have a conversation about like Chantal and her relationship with a man from a country that she's not from. So anyways, my point here isn't about politics. My point here is about how I think morals are even actually more relevant. Let's also bring up the fact that they're saying dumb shit about channel sizes and that you're picking on smaller channels. We can talk about that. I don't mind talking about it. I want to finish my thoughts about morals. People justify bad things that happen to Rosie by saying that the things that she does are morally bad, right? They say she deserves to have morally bad things happen to her because she is morally bad. That rhetoric is also used for discussing why we don't like Amber Lynn and why we don't like Chantal. And all of those things are valid because all three of those women are morally corrupt in some kind of way, in my opinion. Okay? Like, all of those people are morally bad in some kind of way. I think it's hypocritical, me personally, to be like, we can't address other people's morals in this community. And you can't sit over here and be like, Zach stands on a moral high ground when everybody stands on a moral high ground when it comes to Rosie. Everybody who makes content about Amber Lynn and Chantal and Rosie stand on a moral high ground and think that they're morally better than those three women and that they're morally right and those three women are morally wrong. Nobody takes issues when, usually, I shouldn't say nobody, I'm sure there's somebody, but most people don't take issues when I call out the moral failings of Chantal, Rosie, or Amber Lynn. It's only when I call out the moral failings of other people in this community that people start getting upset that I am standing in a moral high ground or things like that. And to me, that's just ludicrous. It's just ludicrous. And that is why I have addressed FFG. That is why I've addressed Rachel. And that's why I've addressed Nikki. Do I have enough information to say that Nikki is the most morally corrupt person ever? No. But I do have enough information to say, hey, she did this thing that morally is unacceptable to me and my morals. And the other thing about morals is that you don't have to agree with my morals, but those are my morals. I have sat on Al Gore's internet for the past couple of weeks calling Rosie a weenie because she can't stick to her convictions. She can't stick to her moral beliefs, to her values. She won't call out people when they need to be called out. I'm not a weenie. Okay? I'm not a weenie. I'm not going to sit here and be inconsistent with myself from past experiences. There are also weirdly some people saying that like I don't understand why Zach cares about what happens to Rosie. And I will even say, it was just a few days ago that I said in a live stream here that like the amount of sympathy I have for Rosie when all of these things keep happening to her is very low because she just like keeps talking about them over and over and over again. It's like, why do we keep giving them the attention? The amount of sympathy I have for her because of some of the things that she's done is very low. That doesn't mean I think those things should happen to her. All right, so just to be clear, in case there was confusion about that, I can lack sympathy for her and also be like, yeah, I don't think bad things should happen to her. And again, like some people have said, like, well, Zach, she's done really bad things to you. Well, I live in a world where like I don't just inherently want bad things to happen to the people who do bad things to me. And you can say that's me standing on a moral high ground all you want, but that's just how I live my life. Like truly. You know, we could get into the weeds about a bunch of other things related to that. But all of this to say is like, you'd have to do something really, really, really bad. And even then, like, I don't know. I hated how much they belittled the sending shit to Rosie's house. That's scary. A random man who fucking hates you and has threatened other women sending stuff to your autistic brother. Agreed. I don't know. And then I think there were like various conversations of like, well, hasn't Zach celebrated? Like, I feel like a lot of people were bringing up specifically me celebrating Chantal getting kicked out of Kuwait or something. I don't remember what my reaction was to that, to be quite honest with you, outside of I'm sure I did celebrate her facing some level of accountability, because Miss Ma'am, like a lot of the girls, rarely faces accountability. Also, like, no, I don't think people should have been like reaching out to Kuwait officials trying to get her in serious danger. I think that is silly. I think pretty consistently, if there's one thing that's been very consistent, it's that I've always, for the most part, been very anti going in real life in any kind of way, from very serious things to very not serious things. Lest we forget fucking Cake Gate. I mean, even when Yamino, which I know Yamino was here in the chat at some point, even when Yamino sent the stuff off the Amazon wish list, I was like, okay, like, I think Yamino, like, is a little bit, like, trying to troll. And also, like, that was from her Amazon wish list. I don't know what the fuck she really expected. Which is also why I'm like, girl, I don't know why you got a P.O. box. I don't know why you got that. I was like, you don't think old Yamino's not gonna send you something else in the mail? Or somebody else? I understand it was pushing boundaries, and I apologize and changed my behavior. No direct touching. I mean, Yamino, on the grand scheme of the things that I'm talking about today, I think that was like on the lower end of of like poo touching, to be quite honest with you. You know, if we're ranking things, I don't think that ranks anywhere near, you know, some of these other things we're talking
my
about.
cream all wheat.
And you know, if there's anything else that people are like, Zach, what are your thoughts, feelings about like this argument, this, that, the other, like, I'm happy to respond, because like I said, I feel so overwhelmed by so many, like, just so many points that people have argued and made, and this, that, the other. But I do know somebody, I think Pez brought up the thing about like punching down in smaller channels and this, that, the other. I don't even necessarily care that it's a Rosie talking point. That doesn't bother me. I think there's other things that you could compare Nikki to when it comes to Rosie, in terms of like a retelling of things that happened based on more information coming out and like the story changing and stuff like that. But what I want to say is I understand, at least in this case, at least in the case of Nikki and Nikki's channel, the concept of people feeling like I'm punching down or picking on a small channel. But I also explained what my boundaries for talking about other reaction channels were in my video. I think that's very clear. The boundaries I have about that are very clear. I have said in the past that if a channel is talked about by one of the people I cover and it's like impacting the story that's happening on their channel, I will talk about it. And if a channel is going so far as to involve themselves in real life, I will talk about it. That's my basis. I'm not out here looking at subscriber count when I make that decision. And I also just want to be clear, I do think it's fair that people ask my opinions about Nikki, since I have used content and clips from her channel before. Cramblings, first time chat. My concern is that if we believe Cam is dangerous and we know Cam knows a lot about Nikki and he clearly still watches her, is it safe to expect her to be really loud to disavow him? Cramblings, I think you might have just came in. I actually talked about this at length, but I'm happy to repeat my thoughts about that. My thoughts about that are that she doesn't have to do anything. When I was sharing that in my video, I said as much, that she doesn't have to. When I was sharing, for me personally, to be able to say, yeah, I do or do not fuck with Nikki, I would need to have some kind of reassurance that she's not. She doesn't have to do anything if she feels a danger, which also, like, the way that you worded your question, by the way, assumes that I know a lot more about Nikki than I do, which is that we all somehow know that Cam has all of this information about Nikki and that he might try to use it against her in some kind of way. I don't know what Cam does or doesn't know about Nikki, because I only know what Nikki says about their relationship, and I know what Cam says about their relationship. Can you address the talking point of you should have gone to Nikki directly to ask her? I didn't know that was a talking point, but I can address that for sure. When it comes to her safety, like, she absolutely has to do whatever makes herself feel safe. My whole entire point in that conversation was to say, I don't know. Nikki has said she's addressed it. I can't find on her channel where she's addressed it outside of the one community tab post that I've already shared. As such, for me, as somebody who is being harassed by Cam on a regular basis, I would just like to know what specifically her stance is on it. I don't know what point people are making and like I should have just gone to Nikki directly. So I would be curious what the argument is there. I don't have a personal connection with Nikki like that. Like I don't know Nikki like that. If this was something that came up with Charlie, who is my personal friend, I would have checked with Charlie before I made a video about her, but I don't know Nikki like that. So I don't know why there's an obligation or expectation for me to go check in with her about it. I already had made one video that she didn't have a problem with. I don't believe I saw Nikki taking any issue with my first video where I said that I felt like she had changed. So, and nobody was like, well, you should have talked to Nikki about that. I think it's weird to be in this corner of the internet and have issues with people discussing other people, regardless of how big or small a channel is. If your channel is talking about others, you got to be okay with people discussing you, especially, well, Nikki's just an archive channel. Especially when you've been pretty involved, and if safety is an issue, it's time to walk away. I could go either way with the safety thing. Like, I don't think people should be scared away from being able to, like, participate on the internet. And to be honest, I'm not in the... Did Libby reach out to you directly before her live? She sure did not. No, she sure didn't. I don't think people should have to, like, live in fear that they can't, like, participate in YouTube and things like that. And I also want to say, like, I'm certainly not trying to, there's no part of me that like wants to give Cam attention. I think a lot of people are concerned that I've given him attention and I've done this and I've done that. I just want you to know that Cam is going to talk about me regardless. Cam has been talking about me regardless, and I haven't been talking about him. I'm bringing him up in the context of this conversation because it's relevant to the conversation. I'm not bringing him up when he's not relevant. I'm not sitting over here sharing with you every time that he talks about me. The other thing that I would agree with, I think I talked a little bit about it. The other thing I would agree with Colin on is that, like, I think a lot of people got stuck on the very first part of it in regards to the discussion regarding Cam. But I feel like I made a lot of fair points unrelated to Cam. that I don't know, like, I think people either just like disagree about those things being problematic, or they just didn't watch or listen to the second half of the video. I think it is a really fair question to be like, hey, by the way, 6 months ago, Nikki was acting like she found out about the Twisted Tea situation after it happened, and now there are literal screenshots of Cam and Nikki talking about it while it happened. And like, I those are the kinds of things that for me do make me question those things. See, I didn't realize that either. Yeah, she said in a just a second, I'll go pull up the screenshot. This was a comment from 6 months ago on one of her own videos. She said, I've known Cam for just over a year. The one thing he did in that time, I found out after the fact, was sending the tea for Levi's birthday. And he said he'd never do anything like that again, and I believed him. And by the way, if Colin missed this, and Colin was critically watching my video, then imagine the other people who missed this. No, I believe you, Colin. That's not a diss on you. I'm just saying, like, I guess I should have put it at the beginning of the video. That's why this screenshot is in the thumbnail. This screenshot's in the thumbnail of my video, because honestly, of all the things I shared, This feels like, to me, and maybe to that extent, I should have put it at the beginning. But this to me was the biggest glaring thing, that like she's just switching up her feelings about Cam based on what what people are currently upset about. And then I included literal clips of Nikki talking about how she laughed. She felt like it was not a big deal that he did it, and she wasn't going to apologize for laughing about it, which is just like, for me, an incredibly different tone. And I think that's fair to critique and criticize. Zach thinks we got attention spans longer than 10 seconds. That's really the problem. Well, people are regularly watching these days 1.5 hour long videos that I'm putting out reacting to Rosie. I thought y'all could handle 50 minutes of me talking about Nikki T. I was there when she said that, and I said in her chat that it's scary that he did that, and I would have been scared if it happened to me. Yeah, I will reiterate once again also, like, I haven't shared every single time. I haven't shared most of the times, let me actually say that. I haven't shared most of the times that, like, people have been weirdly with me in real life, because that's the advice I give to people. But I have at this point shared many times about the time that somebody called my old employer. And that shit's scary. That shit's scary. It is scary. It's intended to be unnerving. It's intended to make people uncomfortable. People are dismissing that too. It's a public facing job. Well, they can dismiss it again if they want. But if they're dismissing that, then they're missing the whole point of me even sharing that, which is, I understand that people think it's a public thing, right? I understand that people think it's a public thing. The thing we disagree about is that I don't think that makes it okay. And that's my, if that's what they're hearing from that, then they're not hearing the point that I'm making, which is that for me, for my morals, I don't give a fuck if you can go and find something about me publicly on the internet. If you're intentionally doing something to be malicious and harass me, then yeah, go fuck yourself. I don't care. I don't care if it's a public facing job and you're choosing to utilize that. You're utilizing it in a way that's intended to be malicious. That's why I stopped using the word doxing a long time ago, because people are like, oh, it's not doxing if it's public. So I stopped using the word doxing a long time ago, because I realized that that's a battle of semantics that I'm just like not willing to have. That's why I purposely talk about it going in real life, because I don't care if something's public or not. Like, if you know you're doing it to be an asshole, go fuck yourself. Working a public facing job is not consent to be harassed. Wake that up. And just to be clear, ain't nobody at the law school that I worked at gave a shit. They just told me for my benefit to know that it was happening. I accidentally saw so much personal info about glitter and lasers, and I did absolutely zero with it. That's the other thing. Over time, like, I've gotten so much personal shit sent to me about people, and I'm just like, I don't want it, which I think I've also made very clear at this point as well. I'm not sure if FOIA was intended for that. The only time I ever heard used one was for myself when I was immigrating to the US to get my own entry visa data because they were old. I don't think FOIA is intended to cause online drama. Well, I can also talk about FOIA from working at a public institution as well. And there are ways that, like, people don't have to share things, like, regarding FOIA. Working at a public state school, like, FOIA was something that was discussed with us a lot, because it's like, legally, if people really wanted to, they could request access to, like, our emails and stuff like that, if they could justify a reason for it. At the law school that I worked at, they talked about, like, if people are doing FOIA requests, like, they literally do have to have, like, they need to be able to state, like, what the reason and stuff that they're getting this for. So I will say, I found out after I stopped working at the law school, there was, like, a student that was, like, maybe suing the law school or something, I don't know. But because of that, they actually did, like, somebody did, like, request access to my emails. Because I was, like, parts of conversations that the student was having with other staff at the school. I think FOIA in particular, like, I think it's, like, original intended use as a law, the Freedom of Information Act, was really geared towards, like, journalism and and things like that, and working on stories and stuff like that, and like being able to make sure that people have access to things that are public record and stuff like that. I don't know that FOIA's intention, like the intention of FOIA was for nosy people on the internet to get stuff about internet public figures. Remember when we used to hee hee ha ha at Toxic Lake and dumpster diving Rolos? And I'd still love to. Oh my gosh, hi, it's me again, and I just want to say that I'm looking over here to make sure that I'm talking into the microphone, because sometimes it can be quiet if I'm like not close enough to it. But anyways, I just want to say that this is where my stream glanched for real and just stopped working. And now that I've edited, I know what what was not talked about as a result. And the very last thing that somebody brought up before my stream glanched was somebody saying that Libby, who had been watching my video on a live stream, I guess Libby brought up that like Rosie and her family has doxed herself. And again, some of this like comes down to like me feeling like people really didn't watch my video, because that's like at a point I addressed in it, because this is not the first time I have talked about people going in real life with YouTube creators that I cover. And it's frequently, and I said this in my original video too, but it's frequently brought up that like people justify it by saying that like, well, they dox themselves, so like they should have to deal with it. And again, that's why I don't use the word doxing. That's why I don't talk about doxing. I talk about going in real life because there's all these semantics like, oh, it's public. Oh, this person did it to themselves. Blah, 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 blah. I don't really care. I don't really care if Rosie accidentally shared her address at some point. You know what I've done before? Accidentally said my full fucking government name. Like, that doesn't mean that I want people to come and use that information to harass me. People make accidents. People do accidents. Is Rosie stupid for not being a little bit more protective over her stuff after she's been on the internet for as long as she has? Absolutely. And that still doesn't justify doing bad things to people. If you disagree, then again, we are at an impasse about those things. We are not going to agree on those things, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me on that. I'm going to continue to not fuck with people who do that, and that's my line, that's my boundary. I also just want to say, I could probably talk about 1,200 more things when it comes to people's thoughts about Nikki and stuff like that. I just really want to reiterate that I hope folks really actually go listen to my video, and not from a place of like, oh my god, Zach's trying to ruin Nikki. I know that people feel some type of personal way about Nikki. It sounds like a lot of you really enjoy her content, which is perfectly fine and acceptable. I was not doing this on a personal level. I really was addressing, again, not just those comments that I shared in my video, but also comments from people in my community on Twitch who discussed with me that they were concerned that I actually hadn't looked into Nikki enough. And my video is a reflection of my opinion on Nikki, on her involvement with people going in real life. And the reality is there's more that I could have talked about, like she doesn't want people to ask her about her personal life or talk about Cam and things like that. But she literally platformed Cam for years, where he said and did just awful behavior. Okay, so if people want to bring up Rosie's past again and again and again and again, granted, I don't think that Rosie has addressed a lot of those things, but I don't think Nikki has either. And I think people are okay to ask for Nikki to speak about those things. And I just think that is more than fair. And people are allowed to have criticism of people who have criticism of Rosie. So I just want to say that. I also want to say that Nikki did engage in Rosie-esque behavior. Before Libby went live to react to my video, Nikki was on Twitter talking about like, I'm not even gonna watch it, I'm not gonna do that, and then she quickly followed up by joining the chat and talking at length in the chat. Like I said, I didn't watch that, but people in my Discord were posting all kinds of screenshots of the comments that Nikki was making in that chat about the situation, and then she went to tweet about it again after the fact. So it's like very Rosie behavior to be like, I'm not watching, I'm not doing it, but then doing it anyways. And I also want to say there are a number of people who were saying that I shouldn't be able to use Nikki's content or anything like that moving forward. Again, I think at most I've used it 2 to 3 times. One of the times most recently was simply to react to, sorry for the sirens. One of the times was simply to react to one of the TikTok live stream panels that Rosie joined. And then otherwise, I was primarily using a clip here and there to show Rosie contradicting herself. So people saying like, I can't use Nikki's content moving forward. I'll probably find a way. But I also want to say, before you get too far into that, it was just quite literally, before I posted this video, Nikki, and this was one of the Nikki live streams I watched, okay, for people who said I didn't do my research, quite literally, when she was reacting to one of Rosie's most recent live streams, Rosie was saying that nobody wanted to call out Nikki T because they didn't want to worry about not be able to use her content or whatever. And Nikki herself said, I don't care if people don't like me. Whoever wants to use my content can use it.
Becoming a source that reactors are using her content for, but they can't have her be called out because then they can't use her content to react off.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, they could. Fair use, bitch.
Me instead of, I don't know, actually doing a good job at their job and watching my content directly. Like,
other creators, if you don't want to associate with me, I totally get it. It's totally fine. You can still use my shit.
Like, if you're gonna be a reactor, I don't know, react to my content, not someone else's edit of me. I think people that do that are fucking wank. Like, you're just lazy. Like, if you're doing a reaction content, then you...
Because at the end of the day, I'm not here for clout. I'm not here for money. I'm not here for any of that shit. I'm here because I think Rosie is a dangerous person. And I want as many people to know about her as possible. So, of course, I'm happy for people to use my receipts. I'm just very bad at getting myself organized.
So I just want to be clear about that, too. Although I don't have a problem just not using Nikki's content. That's really not an issue for me. It really, really, truly isn't. So that's all I got to say about this. I'm sure people have plenty of other things that they want to say and share in regards to their concerns. And again, discourse is allowed over here. It doesn't mean I'm going to take everybody's opinion into account. I feel like the people in my Twitch chat had a lot of good, constructive things to say. I think we had a great conversation about it. I'm more than happy to continue occasionally addressing questions if you want to come to my Twitch chat and ask me those questions. But otherwise, I'm happy to move on to reacting to Rosie content, reacting to, I think I just saw maybe Amber Lynn posted some more What I Eat in a Day is on TikTok. Happy to go do that bullshit and get back to it because, like, trust that it's not fun for me to sit here and argue with people. Like, this is not the kind of content I enjoy making. I would rather not have to call anybody out for their bad behavior, but it is a thing that I do, and I'm here to do it. So anyways, that's all I have time for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you're brand new, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!